Hi there and welcome. In this video I want to talk about the Mixolydian mode. Now, earlier we've seen the Phrygian, Dorian and Lydian mode. And if you missed those tutorials, please have a look at the QJamTracks channel to view those tutorials and learn more about these modes. Now, just like any other mode or scale, the Mixolydian mode has a unique flavor or mood. And some say it sounds a little energetic and positive. And others define it as dark major and characterize it as progressive. Now, the Mixolydian mode is extracted from a major scale, just like all the other modes, like Phrygian, Dorian, Lydian, Aeolian and Locrian. The Mixolydian mode starts on the 5th note of a major scale. So it uses exactly the same notes as that major scale from which the Mixolydian mode is extracted, only the tonal center is shifted to the 5th degree of that major scale. Now this causes the half steps to be shifted to occur on different places in the scale, and thus creating a different sound compared to the plain major scale. Now let's build the G Mixolydian mode on the chromatic scale on the neck of the guitar. First of all, we see a major third between the 1st and 3rd degree. This means we are dealing with a major scale. And second, if we take a closer look, we see a whole step between the 7th and 1st degree. This means that the 7th degree is a minor 7th instead of a major 7th interval, like in the plain major scale. So to define the Mixolydian mode, we could say it's a major scale with a flattened 7th degree. Now, to get yourself familiarized with the Mixolydian mode, just play the scale patterns up and down the neck over the Mixolydian backing track. Now be aware that you don't need to learn new patterns if you already know the major scale patterns. Just play the scale patterns of the major scale of which the Mixolydian mode is extracted. For instance, if you want to play G Mixolydian, just play C major scale patterns, because G is the 5th note in the scale of C major. Now, because the tonic in the Mixolydian mode is a dominant 7 chord, the Mixolydian mode works well over all dominant chords like dominant 7, dominant 9, dominant 11 and dominant 13 chords. Now, because of that, the Mixolydian mode is also referred to as the dominant scale. Now listen to these examples where I play a Mixolydian mode over a dominant chord. And if we project this on a blues progression, we can play the Mixolydian scale on each dominant chord of the progression. Or say we have 2 dominant chords. But then we could play the Mixolydian scale on each dominant chord just by shifting the scale patterns along with the positions of the chords. Now, there are a lot of real-world examples out there that utilize the Mixolydian mode in all kinds of genres. I want to give you 4 examples and some suggestions to listen to. Okay, the first example is Clocks. It's a song by Coldplay from the album A Rush of Blood to the Head. And Coldplay uses the E-flat Mixolydian mode, and I transpose this song to E Mixolydian, which is the 5th note of A major. Excuse me. the second song is This Is a Low by Blur, and it uses the E Mixolydian mode, although it briefly uses a modal interchange, supercharging the song with a flat sixth major chord. And this is a technique that is overly used, for instance, by the Beatles. Very common to do. Now, what is a Mixolydian tutorial without mentioning the world famous rock band of all time, ACDC? These guys are kings of the Mixolydian mode. The whole repertoire of ACDC relies heavily on this mode. Like for instance this song, Back in Black, in the E Mixolydian mode. By now you must think, are all songs in the E Mixolydian mode? Well, a lot, but not all. Like for instance this song. It's called Sweet Home Alabama by Lynyrd Skynyrd. It uses the D Mixolydian mode, which is the fifth note of the G major scale. The C chord outlines the D Mixolydian mode, because it's the flattened seventh. Other great songs to listen to are Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine, Steve Vai, The Audience is Listening, Jeff Beck, Freeway Jam, Old Blues by Miles Davis, and the theme from Star Trek. You'll find links to the songs in the description. And the very interesting alternative for the Mixolydian scale is the dominant pentatonic scale, which is in fact a dominant 11 arpeggio. Now, it's really fun to play this scale over a Mixolydian backing track or over a dominant chord. It has all the ingredients of a Mixolydian scale, but still has a pentatonic feel or arpeggio feel. If we compare the chords in the G Mixolydian scale to the chords in the G major scale, we notice a few differences. And so we find differences on the 3rd, 5th and 7th degree. Now, those chords will outline the Mixolydian character and should be used in a modal Mixolydian chord sequence. Now, combinations that will work, for instance, are 1st degree, flat 7th degree and back to the 1st degree. First degree, 5th degree, and back to the 1st degree. First degree, flat 7th degree, and 4th degree. The last one is used by Guns N' Roses for their song Sweet Child of Mine and by Lynyrd Skynyrd for their song Sweet Home Alabama. When writing modal chord progressions, you should keep away from harmonic functions because they could lead to falling back into the major key from which the mode is extracted. If you want to learn more about writing modal chord progressions or modal chord sequences, I should say, then please watch my video Writing Modal Chord Sequences that Sound Modal. And another great way to create those ambiguous modal chord sequences is to use stacks of fourths, and they are called quarter chords. Now in the Mixolydian we could create a quartal chord on each note of the Mixolydian scale, like this. And listen to this example of a riff that uses quartal chords in the Mixolydian. Now over a blues progression we could play an A minor pentatonic scale with an addition of the blue note. This is called the blues scale. Now we know now that over a dominant chord the Mixolydian mode is an excellent choice. Problem is that it doesn't sound bluesy very much. Now that's because the true blues sound depends highly on the minor scale played over a major chord. The friction between the minor third in the minor pentatonic scale and the major third in the dominant 7th chord creates that bluesy feel. The solution is to create a so-called hybrid scale, which has the best of both worlds. Now, to create a hybrid scale, we are going to superimpose the Mixolydian scale over the minor pentatonic scale and create a mix of these two scales, creating an, well, let's call it a mixo-bluesian scale. Now we have a pentatonic scale with a major third, major sixth and minor 7 added to the scale. We could also see this as a mix between the minor and major pentatonic scale. Now this is a great trick and used by all blues guitarists. And the box on the first 3 strings is called the BB box, named after B.B. King, who used this as a trademark. This concludes this tutorial for today. If you have questions, please ask them. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. And if you want to support me, you could go to my Patreon page, patreon.com/QJamTracks. For now, I say grease from the Netherlands, and I see you next time in a QJamTracks backing track or QJamTracks tutorial.